I want to welcome everybody this week for coming on. And this week we have our friend of mine, Matthew Nurre, director of photography and all around crew guy. Matthew, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Not at all. Not at all. Let's start off with the question I start off with everybody, which is what got you into entertainment originally?
I guess my total trajectory kind of towards it. I knew like I always wanted to have a camera in my hands ever since like my dad got a little video camera to do, film birthday parties, home movies, things like that. And whenever he let me hold it, it was game over from there. Um, so then it was just about trying to figure out like, okay, how can I do a career out of this? How can I just go into a path that people are just going to throw a camera in my hands and hopefully, trust me to get good looking things. Still working on that a little bit, always never ending pursuit. But yeah, no, I always knew it was camera for sure.
What was one of the first things you remember shooting on that camera from your old man?
I have watched it back, not recently, but I do remember it. I very distinctly remember we had this big window that overlooked some woods out back, and we would have white-tailed deer that would routinely come back through the woods. And so I remember taking the camera and trying to film the deer, and my hands were so shaky that I figured out that if I press the lens like flat up against the window, then that would steady the footage and I could film the deer better. And that's what I like, one of the first things that I remember filming.
Nice. And then you went on to film deer and wildlife all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of just like been the guiding light, throughout the
Yeah.
career of just like, how can I film deer and animals professionally?
What was your first gig with a camera? Who hired you first?
Um, I guess the first like serious gig or like from an actual like entertainment company that wasn't just like some short film or like I said a bar mitzvah or anything like that. Because I did do one of those, uh, and it was through a company. I started off PAing, uh, and then slowly worked my way up in that one show Bar Rescue, which is
Wow.
still going to today.
Yeah.
And there's still people back in like 2012, 2013, around that time when I was PAing and then moved up to AC and then operated on that show. People that I worked with back then are still working on it now. It's very
Oh,
impressive.
wow. That's one of those shows that have been around forever. Who
Yeah.
was on that? Was that Katie Dirks was on that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she
She
was.
was one of the like supervising producers. Now she's show running it, I think
She
now.
is
Yeah.
right. Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know where she was now. Yeah, I worked with her on a different one back in the day at Reveille, but I always remembered she was on that.
Hmm.
That's a
Yeah.
fantastic. That was a. What did you learn from coming up on that show? What do you remember? What was your thing that you take away from that
Ooh.
show and goes, okay, that's what I'm gonna. I'll carry that lesson throughout the all shows.
I think it was a lot of my like own internal patience with things. It's so easy to get frustrated with like preparing for something to happen and then that gets nixed and all of a sudden you got to prepare for something else, and being able to be malleable and work on the fly, and adjust to the circumstances and things like that. And I definitely had some moments where like the frustration was getting to me a little bit. Um, and now in hindsight, I was just like, oh yeah, that was just like me being young and not as seasoned in the industry, uh, and not being able to just kind of like roll with the punches. And I feel like I'm a lot better with rolling with the punches these days now.
Yeah. Oh no, we all come up hot-headed in these things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and especially in reality television, because I mean, we all know on set it's always hurry up, and wait. But when it comes to these docu follows or series follows, you don't get a second take. You don't get that moment back. So the anticipation and the pressure that's put on, especially the camera department, is sometimes astronomical, and sometimes
It's
not even warranted.
it's one of my like favorite things now though, is like that surprise and like the ability to not you can't do it again. You either have to be ready for this one magical moment or it's gone forever. And now it's funny that like the frustration of just being able to like not be as malleable or having things change on you constantly now turns into something that I love so much. Is kind of funny.
I had that was the biggest one for me to learn. I mean, you always want things to go right, and when you're in production, you have to learn. And it sometimes it takes you a few jobs, even a few years, but you have to learn like it isn't going that way. Like
Yeah.
you need to just let that go. And if something changes, you got to be ready to go and just switch it and be okay with it. But yeah, it took me years to even come close to getting that.
And it's kind
Um,
of like a good lesson to just attribute to your everyday life too. Like you can plan out your entire life however much you want, but if you just can kind of sit and listen to your environment and see what's coming at you and what the universe is providing and being able to recognize that and then carry that with you and go in that direction or see what's, again, like the opportunities that being opened up for you instead of trying to force something, your life's going to be so much easier.
do you feel being able to be a camera assist and being able to kind of learn that side of it helps you as a DP?
Oh, 100%. Especially in the line of work that I'm in, where like it's not the lines blur between like what your responsibilities are. A lot of times that you're not just doing the strictly director of photography thing, you're doing AC work too and things like that. So having that skill set still helps me today, but I think having that actual trajectory very much I think it benefits everybody. Like anybody can benefit from working in just like the food service industry or customer service or things like that. It
Yeah,
just kind of
waiting tables.
puts things a little bit more into perspective, and you can kind of understand where your assist is coming from or what they're going through if they're not telling you, and you can kind of know those things, anticipate their needs, and kind of reciprocate the help that they're giving you.
Do you feel as a DP, you also have to be a little bit of a tech head to keep up with today's technology?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think no, in the sense that uh, none of the tech that you're using is really going to change very much in terms of like your composition, understanding lighting, understanding like the flow of a conversation and how to do your camera movements and things like that. Like that's all, it's the same whether you're using a Super 35 or, some of the high end Alexas or whatever it is these days. So as far as like a cinematography standpoint, not really. Like, there are some tools that you need to kind of be aware of, but also on the flip side, I think there are things that just will make your life so much easier if you understand the tech better. Um, and even just kind of like understanding what these functions do, how they can be implemented into your routine, how you can assign them to a hot button so that in the moment you go, oh, right, I got to switch over to that. And then it's just boop, like, but if you set that up for yourself and know it all yourself and are proficient in going through a camera menu or rigging up something, then yeah, you're going to be working faster, working smarter, working more efficiently, and that's kind of what you need to do.
How do you work with somebody who is, again, who is learning and being a mentor to them?
Yeah, I guess it all comes back down to that level headedness, that patience, that like understanding that getting hot headed or getting frustrated isn't going to solve any issues, and trying to understand whoever it is you're working with to meet them on their level. And I don't know, I feel like I'm not the best teacher when it comes to somebody brand new, just because I'm so just kind of I don't speak out very much. I just like to sit and observe. Um,
Yes, you do.
and so like in that observing, I'm like paying attention to everything, but maybe I'm not, so much like being such a delegator. um, I'll say something once and just kind of expect it. Yeah, they heard me, that's it. Like I don't need to ride them on that, and then if it doesn't happen, you know what, I'll go handle it myself, no big deal. And I think like I just have the luxury of the job on Naked and Afraid is that we're together for 2 months over time. So it's like nothing's quite too pressing this day. Like if they don't get it this time, like it's going to be something that we'll work on over the course of 2 months.
What do you prefer to shoot as a cinematographer? What is your favorite type of content to obtain?
Uh, if I could do Naked and Afraid, like the outside aspect in the environment, but not have to follow naked people, and I just get to film beautiful, like star lapses or animals or the moon or sunrises and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that'd be pretty
Planet
ideal.
Earth.
But
You
I
want
think
to
a
do
lot of
Planet
people,
Earth?
yeah, really would rather have that gig too.
Well, so
But
let's go quickly into that for a second. What was, with all of those locations and all of that sort of stuff, what was your favorite location in the world to shoot on?
that's such a tough question. You can't. It's like
You can
asking
do
what
one or
you.
two. You can give me different reasons. Yeah, have fun with that one.
Yeah, it's like asking like kind of what your favorite band is, like, or what your favorite song is. It can vary just depending on your mood. Like I
Exactly.
feel like recently I've been feeling like I'm missing the jungle. Like I kind of, it feels like an odd thing to say because every time I'm in the jungle, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is such a pain in the butt. But there's so much beauty to just like a jungle in like Southeast Asia or something like that, where yeah, sure, it's like muddy and raining every day and it's miserable, but then all of a sudden there's these magic moments where like if you're not there, nobody is witnessing this. And to get to be there, to have like the privilege of being in these natural places and being in this moment in time, to see the light hit these leaves in a certain way or something like that, like that's just, you got to chase that feeling. That's It's worth
Yeah.
chasing for sure. But then, like, of course, on the flip side, like, I love Africa, South Africa. I was just in Namibia recently, and Namibia is beautiful. Um, Anytime I get to film big game animals or anything like that is always magical.
What do you look back on as one of your, you started off with the dove-tailed deer. What was one of the animals and the shot specifically that you really couldn't believe you got a great shot on and the animal?
I don't even know if it's happened yet. It might not. I don't know.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, it's, and I don't want to like seem like I'm too critical on myself. Like I understand that like I'm doing something right to continue to get to work in this industry. So I must be getting some good stuff, but I don't know. There's still like there's plenty of things that I absolutely love that I've shot, but I think to constantly have a critical mind and to always strive to be like, yes, I recognize this was good. I did good, but I can do it a little bit better. Or if I was, did this instead, or, shifted over this way a little bit, like those constant improvements always are like kind of what's driving me to try to do a little bit better than what I was doing previously. Um,
Nice.
but like to give, I guess, an actual answer or things like that. I don't know if it's an animal, but there's been a couple of star lapses that I've done that I'm particularly proud of,
Nice.
that I
Where?
really like. In Africa, it's kind of hard to beat. Like when you have a big baobab tree that's just like alone in a big old field, and you've got the Milky Way and the Southern Cross behind it. Um, and then it's kind of also one of those things where you just like you know your settings, you know how to do the thing, but I'm not staying out there with my camera the entire night. So it's kind of, set it up and then you drive an hour back to the lodge and then you check it out in the morning and hopefully you get something good. um,
Have you ever gone back to one of those setup cams, whether it was a time lapse or a trail cam or any of the stuff that we go out to set up to capture anything? You ever gone back and got something where just nobody could believe it was on?
Recently in Namibia, I set up a star lapse over a pond. Um, and all of the locals, the people who were like in charge of the property, who helped take me out there, were just like, "Your camera's going to be destroyed in the morning." Like, I don't. why would you do this? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Let's give it a shot. Like we'll chop a few thorn branches. We'll cover the base of the tripod, and well, it'll be fine. Just kind of keeping the fingers crossed. And as I'm scrolling through the time lapse, a bunch of giraffe visit this pond in the middle of the night, and so I've got this beautiful like night sky, stars going, and all these like giraffe just kind of going around the edge of the pond, and they're on the far side of the pond, so I can get a reflection of their shadow in the pond also, as well as the reflection of the stars in the pond. It came out pretty nice. Yeah, pretty happy about that.
Wow. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten one and put one out and it was actually a disaster, like nothing came out on it?
But yeah, I have 100%, like so many, way more often than like I get a good one. But nobody sees that one.
Nobody said we chuck
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
That's
You
awesome.
forget to like check your focus one last time. And like as you're setting up the camera, it bumps a little bit and you go, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful time lapse. And then you're looking on the computer or the camera screen, you go, oh, it looks great. And you put it on the computer and go, oh, everything's soft. It's all nothing sharp. It's trash. Yeah. It happens
Wh-
all the time.
What about drones? Do you use drones?
Yeah, I love droning. I
Yeah. We
big
had
fan.
uh we had Eric Foss on here, and Eric Foss just kept telling stories about ruining drones. And I just couldn't stop laughing. I was like, "Did you ever pull one off?" But he was telling a great story about Jack Sparks on that. Where did you learn drones?
On the job. It was
Okay.
literally like it's one of those things that I guess this would help me in my career. I should probably learn it. And I guess we're in a foreign countries and you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's like, well, there's no police coming to arrest me. Like I don't have a license or I'm not gonna
Doesn't matter in
so
Africa.
throw it up and figure it out. Hopefully don't hit any trees and then just kind of slowly go from there. And then all of a sudden you tell people like, yeah, I can drone up, and then they hire you for things for like actual TV moments, and you go, oh shoot, like I gotta do a good job on this one. Like I can't screw this up, and then hopefully it just keeps going.
Did uh, did drones really change the game on how you were able to capture stuff out there? And are there any other cameras that really changed how you were all able to really kind of capture what you needed to out
Yeah, I would say drones changed it drastically. I feel like it even just like watching a lot of the stuff that I work on, like it gets utilized a lot. They're great transition pieces. They're great animal B-roll pieces, especially when you have something like the Mavic 3 Pro that has a big like 7 by lens where you can kind of punch in a lot closer to these animals without spooking them, which you always got to be on the lookout for like the safety of the animals and like their well-being. Um, so I think, yeah, very much so, and so many people are becoming way more proficient in them. They just seem are so intuitive and easy to use. And like if you play video games, like it's just like playing a video game. Like you got two joysticks and you can kind of just play around with it, and hopefully don't put it in a tree like Eric Foss.
or in the water? Throughout your time, how important is it to become like, friendly or become part of the culture with these people that we're bringing on to help us?
It's pivotal. Like you can't do it without that, in my eyes. Um, One, like it's just the polite thing to do. Like everybody's a human being, and they all have interesting lives and stories to tell. And if you're going to be spending time with them, it just behooves you to get to know the people that you're being surrounded with, um, and just to be a polite human being. I know that it's always said that like we're a representative of whatever show we're working on or the country that we're coming from and things like that. And there is a little bit of that where you don't want to be an insensitive American or something like that. But
Which everybody assumes you are right off.
yeah, um, but it's also like you're missing out on a whole different aspect to your travels if you're not getting to know the people that you're around. You can't really, I feel like, say that you've experienced, name the country unless you've kind of been ingrained in culturally with the people too. Um, and I still have friends that I have from the Philippines, from Africa, from South America, all over the place that I keep up with because of this job. And they're lovely, lovely people.
Nice, nice. I always feel like people sometimes don't take that extra time to find out who they're talking to. And I remember I was out in Nicaragua with a small crew, and we had this producer who was kind of a pain in the butt, but was just barking at this boat driver. And one of the guys that I was working with, the main guy that I was working with, the boat driver was an older gentleman. He kind of turns to me and he goes, "You got to tell your guy to shut up." I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "That guy there, he used to like be an interrogator for the Sandinistas. Like this guy's going to skin this guy alive." I just remember
Oh,
going, "Oh, okay, yeah, we should calm that down." But you just don't know what lives they've experienced until you can kind of stop and sit with them and have those conversations. And I love it. It's one of my favorite parts. To be honest, I've probably snuck off set enough times during production while people are shooting to go into town to talk to somebody.
jealous of
you know
that. Yeah.
you go into these extreme environments, which is, again, for a crew member, it's much different than dealing with a stage show or even going in to deal with a bar rescue. How do you have to prepare yourself mentally to go into some of these locations for such a long time?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I think it kind of follows along the lines of like you were mentioning about how starting this podcast, like you can talk about all these things all you want, but all of a sudden you just got to do it and then you'll figure it out as it goes along. Like your actions almost kind of need to precede the planning to a degree. Um, and that's kind of nice about at least doing international travel where it's just like the flight's booked. Like I have to get on this flight, so I'm going to show up no matter whether I'm ready or not. Uh, and then you can kind of just figure it out as it goes along a little bit. Um, I do believe that like sometimes it's just, jump into the deep end a little bit.
Yeah. What do you look back on as your most embarrassing moment on set or your biggest mistake?
I've definitely double punched a couple of times. So
Yeah.
that's always a rough one as an operator. Not a lot, but a small handful. Um, which is pretty rough, especially not really recognizing it in the moment. I mean, it wouldn't really be a double punch if you recognize it in the moment. And you're, 20 minutes later, you're looking and it's, oh man, not rolling, not rolling. Um, I've lost my temper couple of times there are things that I'm just like not too proud of about that. So I would consider that embarrassing. It's not like a funny thing, but it's just not kind of how to like whether it was justified or not. It's just not kind of how I want to operate as a human being in this world.
Couldn't even imagine.
Um,
I couldn't even imagine you losing your mind.
yeah, it
I mean,
doesn't it
I
doesn't
I can
happen
imagine
very
I can
often.
imagine 90% of the people I've worked with losing their mind. I can't imagine you losing your
It's something that like is always like an active thing to work on. And I feel like I'm pretty good about that, and not letting it get to me. But I don't know, under extreme circumstances, on occasion, small occasions, I'll blow up on somebody.
How important is camaraderie amongst yourselves and the crew in order to keep the day-to-day moving?
Huge, huge. I think you can get by on like day play gigs or short, even just like a week long gig where like you have a little bit of camaraderie, but still everybody kind of just goes off into their hotel rooms. But when you're working on a show that, you're 2 months together, like you're going to get on each other's nerves no matter what. You can be the best of friends, but like when you're having 3 meals a day and spending, 12 days or 12 hours out together in the bush together, you're going to get tiresome of everybody. But I think there does need to be a baseline of camaraderie and recognizing that, like, oh, this person's feeling a little down. So I'm going to pick up the slack in that area and having that give and take with people. Like you mentioned, Jack Sparks the other day, I just worked with him not too long ago. And just like recognizing, like, oh, so and so's missing home, like let's be a little bit more upbeat, or like yesterday kind of sucked, let's go in, like woke up, it's a new day, let's start with positivity. um, and like trading off between crew members to like who's going to bring the positivity today and things like that. And
Nice.
everybody's got their ebbs and flows, but I think as long as like we all are recognizing where each other's ebb and flow is, and then trying to counteract that, or give the space where needed, um, is important, very much
Yeah.
important.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Jack is Jack's one of those guys that you first meet him and you don't expect that that's going to be something he's great at, and once you start working with him, you realize he's the best at it.
Yeah.
You go out to these extreme locations. We've talked about jungles. We've talked about Africa. We've talked about that. What's it like when you get caught up in like a really bad weather system, or have you been caught up in a really bad weather system while being out there?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. In the Philippines, we had a hurricane basically come through, um,
Oh,
and it was a 45-minute hike into the jungle just to get to where our bush camp was. Um, the
every
cast
day?
every day. So 45 in, 45 out. And then that's not, so you'd show up, like you'd be sweated through two shirts at least by the time that you arrived at bush camp. And then, like we didn't leave the cameras out there. So I was backpacking the camera in, and then put the camera on the shoulder and go, okay, now I got to follow these people around. But they were sleeping in a cave. They were bone dry. Um, and I don't think we knew it was quite a hurricane coming in. Maybe we did. Um, but it had started raining really bad in our day. And kind of the channel that we had to walk in and out was a little bit of a river. And but not, it was like a creek, like you wouldn't really get your feet wet, or you were able to avoid getting your feet wet for the most part. Little mud hill up and down, the usual. But that hurricane coming through, we left, and it was probably like mid thigh deep, wading through water, getting out. And it was like, luckily, the cave that the cast was in, they were completely dry, no threat of getting water in there, and they were elevated up on a shelf. So we really didn't think they were going to get flooded out. But if there was a need for some kind of evacuation, it would have been a pretty big ordeal. Sitting there just like dumping out buckets out of our boots at the end of the day. Uh, it's, I don't know, it's again like one of those things where you're just like, there's nothing. What else are you going to do? You're not going to stay here in the jungle. And like, I don't know. It was also one of like the few times that I was jealous of these naked people because they were just dry in this cave. And I was like, I don't, do we stay in this cave with them? No, I can't do that.
Move over.
So it's just, one foot in front of the other. You got to get out somehow. And that's what are the other options? So you just do it, and it sucks, but then you laugh about it with your coworkers afterwards. And, we talk about it all the time, of that like muddy hill that we had to a blue rope that was tied to some trees to help us scale up it because it was slick and you'd slide right down if you didn't have a rope to hold on to. And we call it the blue line of death, and still talk about that blue line of death all the time. And just fun memories.
What is one of the travel days that you just look back on as the most ridiculously long travel day that you had to deal with?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's like they all kind of end up being a version of like at least three flights, maybe with a hotel overnight in between somewhere, and then another like multi-hour car ride or boat ride or things like that. I mean, the Ecuador that we were just talking about, that to get to that area was quite the journey. Um, and
Yeah.
a couple of plane rides,
Yep.
then a
Fly into
long
Quito, stay the night, and then fly
hop on
out
a
the next day.
bus,
And then it was
uh,
bus and boat, right?
bus, and then boat.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, like definitely like had situations where you're just like hitting almost all forms of transportation just to get to the location. Um,
I remember hating to go back to town. Like I'd have to go back, deal with the hospital or deal with this. I remember David hurt his knee, I think, on that one, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
take him in to a doctor on there. And I just remember, just in my head, like, I got to get on that boat and I got to get on that bus. I was just
Well,
dreading it.
and I remember there was that down tree along the river route out. So, like, if you're packed in with your luggage and a bunch of people, like, we couldn't hop the tree. So, you'd pull up to the tree, you climb out to the part that was out of water, let the boat pass over the tree, and then hop back in the boat. It's always
Yep.
some, you
There
can't
was,
predict what
you
nature's going
can't.
to
And
throw
I
at you.
remember even going through that with people. It's like, people were like, hey, the tree fell. It was like, you have to understand, we went through there 12 hours ago. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't, it fell within the last 12 hours. We can't control that. Because I remember people were freaking out about that. And it's like, look, we're going up and down this every day, but if something happens in a 12-hour window, that's part of what we're doing here. I think the most amazing thing I saw on that river was the locals as they were driving that river at night. And if you tried to put a light out to show like up front, they would be like, turn that light off. I can't see with that light on. But in pitch black, they would hit that river like full speed, just going back and forth. I remember I had an emergency at night from one lodge to another, and I couldn't see a thing in front of us. And this guy was just full speed going. I was like, wow. Because they just know the river. They know what it is. They can see off the moonlight. It was really amazing.
Similar thing, and I'm sure in a lot of these communities that navigate these rivers all the time. Same deal in like the Philippines, same deal in Peru. We were off of the in the Amazon in Peru, and a lot of times we were doing boat rides at night too, and they'd be swerving off in this one area when you're like, well, it looks just like it's just a bunch of water. What's going on? And they go, oh, there's a sandbar right there. They know where it is already. That's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. I was another one because we're Americans on there. You're like, is that? And but I learned to look back and just look up and watch the Milky Way on those
Mm.
boats. I would just sit back. And I was like, don't look forward, you'll freak out. Look up and you'll enjoy everything.
Well, that's right.
Um,
And, when you're riding on a boat at night, that's usually because you had a long, rough day. Like we try to minimize nighttime boat rides as much as we can, just for safety reasons. So if you're riding back at night, I'm already just like, oh my gosh, like I'm way past my 12 hours. Like I'm hungry, I'm sweaty, I'm tired. I just want to go home. And then you're on this boat and you look down at the water and there's, bioluminescent algae that's up in the wake. And then you look up and you see the Milky Way overhead. And it's those moments where you're just like, oh, I forgot about everything else that happened in the day. Like this moment right here is like,
yeah,
this is worth it for
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah. Speaking about making it worth it, you've we've just talked about the travel and how far you go in. These are faraway places that you are gone for a long time. How does that make it worth it for you as a person by leaving your family, leaving your friends, and leaving your life more or less to go out to them for such a long period of time? What is it about what you do that makes it so worth it to do that?
Yeah, no, it's always tough. Like there's a joke amongst a lot of people that travel for work or just like work in our industry. I feel is like if you're ever in a dull point of between gigs and you're like waiting for work, like plan a big event or like book buy that concert ticket, and then all of a sudden, boom, you'll get a job during that time too. Like the amount of like birthdays or weddings or events like that I missed is never an easy thing to do. Luckily, my wife, I've been doing this long enough that we kind of have a little bit of a system now to tackle it. As far as like making it worth it, it's chasing those photos, chasing those video clips. I feel like still trying to have a sense of wonder about the world, even if it's a place that a country that I've already been to, or I've even gone back and shot in locations that I had shot at previously, like 5 years prior. Um, and trying to find new things about the area, about the people, about the wildlife, about the flora, fauna, to kind of like drum up excitement. Because I mean, it's still an opportunity that people don't get in their lives. And it's tough and it's hard. But I think recognizing how fortunate I think we all are, and being able to just see the amount of this world that I've been lucky enough to see, and I still want to see more of it. Like it's the world's cool and exciting and diverse, and there's just so much to learn and see, and how you can grow from being in these places. Um, it's
Yes.
never ending. So
No, that's
yeah.
awesome. What do you look back on as your favorite scene that you've ever shot?
There was a scene in the Philippines, and I was filming two cast members who were out on a boat fishing, and it was a gorgeous day. Like it was very casual. We were hanging in the sun. Where I'm out on a boat filming their boat. I'm getting in the water with a GoPro. Like they're catching fish. I'm following the fish up from like I'm free diving down to where their line is, getting the fish and coming up with the GoPro and getting all these cool shots and everything like that.
You were free diving?
Yeah, yeah.
Damn.
It's pretty fun. It's just I don't know
Yeah.
if you could swim, you can
Yeah.
just
I'd
swim.
be just fat guy floating in the
Yeah.
water. That's fantastic.
Um, but then a storm is rolling in, and they're like, okay, we got to get to shore. Like we're kind of out in the bay a little bit, and it was like a legit lightning storm. Um, and so I'm filming boat to boat, and they're sitting there paddling, trying to get to shore as fast as they can. The wind's picking up, the rain's coming down, the lightning striking behind them. I'm getting these amazing shots of lightning strikes in the background of them trying to get to shore. It's pissing down rain. I have my rain cover on. They get to shore. Like our boat goes up to the beach. It beaches, and I'm hopping out with the camera to get them, like pulling their boat up to shore. And it's like there's no like you could wipe the lens, but it wouldn't matter anyway. Like it's just like immediate rain. It's one of those tropical beach thunderstorms that just is relentless. But the camera luckily survived the entire time.
I
I
was going to
filmed
ask.
this I filmed this amazing scene of them coming to shore, pulling their boat up, getting it out of the wake. They're worried about their fire. They're sprinting down the beach to go check on their fire to make sure it hasn't gone out from the water. I'm sprinting down the beach after them. She's getting the fire back up and going. It's still alive. They're cheering in the rain and things like that. It was a pretty epic moment. It's a scene that I'm like really proud of. That I feel like I got a lot of good coverage on. You know,
I got two questions coming out of that story. The first one, really quickly, GoPro. You said you were free diving and going up and down with the GoPro.
yeah,
Those GoPros are amazing, and they're how important are they to have out in those types of environments?
super important. Like a lot of the show, I feel like probably they'd rather it be all shot on GoPro, which doesn't bode well for me. But it no, it's you can get them in places that you just can't get other cameras. That you put them in a waterproof housing, rigging them to vehicles. Like the possibilities are endless. Like up in trees, doing time lapses. They're sensitive enough that you can do star time lapses now. A lot of like the auto settings even on them are like pretty good, where you can get night to day to night kind of transitions without it looking weird. No, it's
Nice.
pretty versatile little tool. Yeah.
What was the coolest shot that day with the GoPro going up and down? Did you get any cool shots going up and down on that free dive?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
they got a fish on the line. And so I said, hold on, don't reel it up yet. I dove down to where the hook was, or I told him just like, let me dive down and then start reeling it up. And then I kind of I tried to like time it so that like my buoyancy was like rising up as they're bringing the fish in. And so I'm following the fish as I'm going back up to the surface, and I get to the surface and I like grab onto their boat and they reel it in and they put the fish in their boat. Yeah, that's
That's badass. That's badass.
pretty cool shot.
That's a great shot. I was Foss was on here, and we were like joking around. Again, I'm the line producer as we're talking about it, but he goes, "Oh yeah, GoPro should just be expendable." It's just like,
I mean,
heart attack, heart attack. I was like,
so,
I agree to a point, but but that is, but I do say, I got to be honest, it is one thing that I say as a line producer before I pull out. Like if I'm doing a big show and that company is going to send me out with 20 GoPros, I say to them all the time, I'm like, just expect none back, and anything I bring back, look at as gold, because the way they use them, you got to just expect them not to be there.
yeah.
But
And
Eric,
I'll be like one of the first ones to like take a GoPro in the water. I love getting in the water
yeah,
wherever we're going. And so
that's
when I
awesome.
call out and I was like, hey, can somebody give me a GoPro? I'm going to go in the water. And, somebody like an AC doesn't, think all too much and hands me one, but it's one that has like the door removed with a piece of electrical tape over it. It's not meant to be used in the water. And I'm sitting there swimming around with it. And I get back to shore and I go, this stopped working. it's, Here you go. Not my
Yeah,
problem.
there's no rice saving that one. Well,
No.
that actually brings me to the second part of that question. One of the things that we have tech problems, we have issues on the shoot. I've had plenty of stage shoots and stuff here in Malibu or something. Camera goes down, camera's broken, camera's this. And one of the biggest things, you have to try to keep those cameras dry, and it's almost impossible. So when you're telling a story about like that rain coming down and stuff like that, how are you able to maintain your equipment and keep your equipment rolling in such extremely wet environments?
You try as hard as you can and then just kind of hope for the best, I feel. I don't know.
Hope, 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 hope.
It depends on what's going on. If they're just like, oh no, a rainstorm is coming, I'm gonna go into my shelter and wait it out. And you can kind of get your scenes, like pick and choose, your shots, get what you need on the big camera, and then you can throw up a waterproof GoPro and let them cover it that way. And then you can go run under a tarp or something to try to, preserve the important equipment. Um, but in other moments where you're just like you're out on a big open beach and it's pissing down rain and there's not much you can do, yeah, it's just kind of, you know, throw the rain cover on, hope as best as you can.
We also have a lot of fun on sets. We do a lot of different things, and we have hobbies. We have stuff like that. And you're known for baking bread.
Mm,
Isn't that correct?
that is correct. Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about your bread baking on sets and in these wild places. And I believe it's sourdough. You've actually brought some actual starters in these places.
I haven't brought a starter. I've started my own starter in country.
Tell me
Um,
about these.
so I've started my own sourdough culture and baked bread from that culture on uh, four, one, two, three, four, no, five different continents, which is pretty cool. I don't know, like
It's very
you're
cool.
kind of in a place for a long enough time that possibility opens up. And I really enjoy the process of baking bread. Um, so I'll like in the early days of a shoot when you have some downtime and if you're near a store or things like that, or the only time that you get to go to a store, I'll get some flour and like a big bowl, uh, maybe like a scale if they have it, um, a few like tools or things like that. But that's it. And like starting the sourdough culture, it's just you're mixing flour and water and just kind of letting that do its thing over the course of time. You're doing like a feeding schedule and things like that until it's a viable product to actually like rise the rest of the dough. And so I'll go out into the field and shoot all day, and then at night I'll come back, or I'll do it in the morning before going out to work. But I'll come back, I'll shower, I'll feed my little sourdough culture, and I just keep it in my room. And then when it's ready, like I'll have chatted with, scoped out an oven and be like, make friends with the people in the kitchen staff or things like that. Tell them about my deal. And of course, I'm always happy to like share the fruit of the baking process with everybody.
What do you look back on as one of your most memorable meals that you have ever had?
My first gig with Naked and Afraid was in Africa, And this isn't going probably in the lines that you like. It wasn't memorable because it was good. It was memorable because it was like, that's it. Um, one of those like African days where it's over 100 degrees, it's hot. And I remember for lunch we got butter and cheese sandwiches, and that was like it, nothing else. Um, that one was a pretty memorable one, and that was like a good introduction of like, oh, is that what this show is? Um,
That's a crap lunch.
I thought it was pretty cool that like when we were in Ecuador, we had a coworker who caught piranha
Okay.
just out on the river there,
Yeah.
and like piranha are not good eating or anything like that. But there's something like enjoyable about like just oh, you sit on the dock, you catch a piranha, and they'll cook it up for you, and they're bony. But like getting to experience that kind of stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so
It's
yeah,
how we did one in the Cook Islands where we were just spearfishing and pulling stuff out. To this day, I'm like, I don't know if that was really that good, but the whole cooking it on a fire, being on a beach at night, the whole night, that's what it just was so amazing.
One thing I've taken away though that I'll still do myself that I've learned out on the road is when we were in Ecuador, and you would always get soup as like a little appetizer before your meal, and it was nothing fancy, but they'd always have a little bowl of popcorn out with the soup, and like soup in the jungle seems weird, but it's not, and you throw that popcorn in the soup, and it's amazing, and I'm a big fan of popcorn and soup, so I
Yeah.
took that with me.
I got to tell you, I was in a restaurant when they first said, like, I went in to prep, right? I go in ahead of time. So I'm going to go on before we go out to start getting into these lodges and do it. The local fixers always try to take me out for a meal before we go or whatever. And we get into this really like old school restaurant. It's been there for forever. You're like, I can't even believe I'm in here. And they bring out all of these like little soup things and fishes and then this big thing of popcorn. And I just remember going, what are we doing? What's the popcorn? And they just start going, to this day, I'm always like, oh, that is so good. That
Yeah.
is so good. That's way better than oyster crackers. This is
Oh,
way
way
better.
better. Yeah. 100%.
If you could choose one ethical principle for every set to follow, what would it be?
Safety is number one. 100%. Like there's nothing that we're doing out there that is worth anybody getting seriously injured. Like we all take calculated risk, and we all know that like there's no 100% safe environment, but if we can mitigate any factors that we can control to be safe on set, 100%. Like, and anybody who thinks they're unsafe should absolutely speak up, and it should be taken very seriously, because again, it's just not worth it. Like there's been way too many injuries, way too many deaths, way too many mistakes to make a silly TV show or movie or whatever. Like I don't care if it's Oscar nominated, award winning thing. It doesn't matter. it's
Exactly.
it's all fantasy. It's
Yeah. Have you ever had a situation where you walked into something where you didn't feel safe?
um yes. Well, there's definitely been like unsafe moments that I found myself in. A lot of them are weather related. Um, a lot of them can be comms related too, where like it's not particularly safe in the or not unsafe in the moment, but if something were to happen, it would be exponentially more unsafe because there's no proper communication to get to a hospital or help when you need it.
Final question. What have you learned as a crew member or as a dependable crew member that you've been able to incorporate into your personal life?
Very kind of you to say, dependable crew member.
Well, I got to
Um,
be honest. The dependable came just knowing that I'm talking to you because I don't usually add that to some people, but you do. I mean, whether you know it or not, your reputation is that of just solid. Like you're just dependable. There's no anything else around it. So, is there anything that you've been able to do or be how you've acted to be able to incorporate that into your personal life?
well, I think that's just like an important lesson in a work mentality in general. Like, I don't know, it feels silly to say, but like, not that the job is easy or any job is easy, but like, if you can just show up on time and try your best, like, you could go pretty far, you know, like, you don't have to be the greatest person, but if you're like, or greatest worker, but if you're a good person who is trying to learn, and can show up on time routinely, you're way ahead of the pack already. Um, and so I think like being able to recognize that that's part of the reason why maybe I'm a dependable employee or things like that. Um, it it can very easily extrapolate to like other things in life where it's just, you know, get your routine, show up on time, whether, you know, even if I'm not working right now, but I'm showing up for myself on time every day. You know, I'm waking up, I have my routine, I have my projects and things that I need to do. I'm taking care of my personal relationships and things like that. I'm taking care of my physical space, my body, my mental space, things like that. And just checking in with all of those things helps you out in life to hopefully be presented with opportunities that then you can follow. And I think that's something that, you know, being thrown different curveballs at work and things like that, and being malleable and being able to change on the fly and things like that, is absolutely applicable in your day to day life. Um,
Nice.
yeah.
Matt, I want to thank you so much for being here today and telling us your stories and going through. I really appreciate you being here.
It's very nice of you to have me on. Thank you very much
Not at all. Did you have
for thinking
fun?
of
Did
me.
you like it? Was it
It
okay?
was lovely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.